Few minutes on browsing and why you might want to browse instead of search for your journal articles. So I know that oftentimes you have been taught to search and you've learned through databases how to do that. And it's a fine way to do it, right? But browsing is a different tool. And so let's talk about like why you might want to browse. So I suppose the first thing to know is that there are typically two types, and I'm going to just switch over to Google for a cleaner background here until I start doing this. There are two reasons why you might want to browse. So one is that you get to know where the conversation is and what conversations are happening. And that is the most important thing in terms of shaping your argument. And the other thing is that it oftentimes will show you, it will help you refine the argument, right? Because it will tell you the things in terms of finding your conversation, then you will be able to, kind of like hear what scholars are saying and kind of it helps you form your ideas around that. So the important thing to know that I was going to say earlier, right, is that there are two types of sociological journals. One we call generalist journals, and those journals are journals that are written for all sociologists. Okay, our primary sociological journals for generalists are the American Journal of Sociology, the American Sociological Review, Social Problems, and Social Forces. Effectively, anything that doesn't have kind of like a subdiscipline in the title is going to probably be a generalist journal, right? But these kind of top four, the AJS, ASR, Problems, and Forces, these are the journals that all sociologists are reading every time, or at least like looking through the table of contents every time that they come out, right? And so because they're written to a general audience, you can browse through them to see what issues or what kind of points of concern all sociologists are interested in, right? And so, for instance, if we're thinking about like the most recent AJS, like reproduction, mobility, and college women, pensioner employment, well-being, and gender, lessons from Russia, beholding inequality, race, gender, and physical, and returns to physical attractiveness in the United States, right? And so, as you will maybe notice, none of those articles are necessarily thematically related, particularly if you like go even further and talk about like, social movements and continuity. And the importance of place-based issues there. This idea that some of these are, kind of cross-national studies versus some are probably just studying America and Americans. And so again, like 95% of everything that you will see in a generalist journal is going to be probably irrelevant to what you are doing. You can always search within this journal, right? So let's say that you are looking at issues of disability. I'm thinking about Dacia's project here as I'm typing this in. You can kind of look and see like religion, disability, depression, probably doesn't help. Categorization by organization, manipulation of disability categories, maybe that's something that Dacia might want to read, right, or save. Making the social and educational knowledge, or I'm sorry, masking the social and educational knowledge, the case of learning disability theory, like maybe not, right? And so like you can also search within journals to see kind of where the discourse is, because again, the reason that you're going to want to do this is because you're looking for the conversations. Or let's say that like maybe thinking about Justin's project here, we're seeing if there's anything about leaving religion and so maybe here, oh no, that's looking in poly, it's not just looking in, we don't want to search anywhere, come on. Okay, so I already blew it, right? So we're looking here within the American Journal of Sociology we want to look at. But you can, kind of go back and look particularly in, within AJS, and they have they have the least good interface, like at least ASR is sociological, right? And so, again, here we can like look by what are the latest articles, what are the most read, what are the most cited. You'll probably want to look at the latest, but you can go to like the current issue, and then again see racial discrimination in housing, intersection of racial and gender attitudes. Like, so maybe Maddie, this might be something that would be interesting to your project, right? Maybe, college and the culture war, assessing higher education's influence on moral attitudes. And I will also say that anytime you see this little icon here, they've got a podcast for it, so you can listen rather than read if you want. And so, kind of again, most of this will probably not be relevant to your project, but it's a place to look, right? Particularly if you're looking for conversations. Probably a better way to browse, and why didn't I just start with that? Who knows, right? Is to look at what we call specialty journals. So these are the second type of journals in sociology. And specialty journals are journals that have a thematic content, right? So in the Journal of Marriage and Family, this is the flagship journal of family sociology. And so all people who are family sociologists read JMF. So like I skim it typically when it comes out, just the table of contents, but I don't read it religiously like I might say the Research in Social Stratification and Mobility, which is like our flagship journal for strat people. And so, again, if we're thinking about this, like we can look through the most recent articles. If we're thinking about Journal of Marriage and Family, like Morgan, Jordan, this is the kind of journal that you're going to want to be looking for, right? In terms of finding your article, your conversations. And so you can go through and like look issue by issue to see if there is something relevant to you. You can also search within and just make sure, unlike the mistake that I just made, that you're searching within the Journal of Marriage and Family. But oftentimes, again, like I will read here just to see what people are saying, right? So it's like, oh, I actually don't know anything about within couple wealth inequality in Britain and Western Germany. So like, let me like see what conversations are going on there. Let's see if there are more people that are kind of looking at those things if I want to look at, say, like cross national wealth inequality. So Journal of Health and Social Behavior. Deja, you'll probably be here. This is the premier flagship journal of people that are looking at health issues. Youth in society might be something that any of you that are looking at young adults might use. Gender in society, anybody that's looking at issues of gender. So Maddie, Kaya, depending on what direction you go, Maddie, depending on what direction you go, right? Jack, I mean, all these, like lots of people might be here in gender and society. And so again, like looking to see like, what are the gender scholars saying? Or within the sociology of religion, Justin, Shannon, this is going to be your journal. So what kinds of things are religion sociologists talking about? Media, culture, and society. This is going to be for Alexis. This is going to be for Stephen, right? Like for people that are looking at issues of media. New media and society is another media journal. We don't necessarily have just a flagship because oftentimes media scholarship is interdisciplinary, and so it is kind of owned by lots of different disciplines. And so like basically like once you find out what is being said, then you can do the Google Scholar thing where you're looking back and forth between the articles, looking at the reference, the references, looking at who is citing who that I talked about in the previous video, so that you can see where those conversations exist. And so our class today, that I'm recording this is the 29th of November. And so our class today will talk about how to kind of identify those different conversations and turn them into an argument. But the first step of that is identifying where the conversation is. And I tend to believe that browsing is a better tool for doing that than searching.